As established in my previous video, I believe Castorice to be the strongest DPS in the game on release, being able to hit 26k DPAV at 3 cost, while other damage carries are roughly at 20k or lower, and sometimes even with a higher cost. In this video, I will be teaching you everything you need to know in order to unlock her full potential, so let's get started. Trace priority is pretty easy. You ideally want to max everything out except for her basic attack, but the Memo Sprite skill and Tedent will take priority first. As Castorice is a remembrance unit, her choice of light cones are fairly limited right now. We have her best in slot, Make Farewells More Beautiful that gives 30% HP, allows her to ignore 30% defense, and even a nice little 12% action advance when her Memo Sprite leaves the field. However, Sweat Now Cry Less, the Battle Pass 4-star light cone, is actually a very competitive choice, giving extra crit rate and damage percentage with a high uptime. I calculated it at S1 as it was only recently released, but if you have been buying the Battle Pass since 3.0, you will be able to get S3 during version 3.2. The last option is the 3-star light cone Reminiscence S5. This light cone doesn't really gel well with Castorice's playstyle of instantly exploding the dragon, which is why it performs the worst, but honestly still a respectable 17,000 DPAV. Do also note the choice of main stats. If you have S1, you can actually run a quantum damage spear, but this specific spear should ideally have extra HP percentage substats that a HP spear cannot get. If you are not using her signature, it is usually always a HP spear then, as it performs roughly 1 to 2% better. And that brings us to Relics. The Relic sets are super straightforward. It's always going to be Poet and Bone Collection. The fixed slots are Boots and Rope. These will usually always be HP percentage. Like I previously mentioned, HP and damage spears are both viable. Even if you don't have her signature light cone, the damage spear will not lose you a lot of damage either. For body, it's almost always going to be crit damage, as a HP percentage body almost always performs slightly worse even with S1. This is most likely because crit damage is more scarce than damage boost in her best in slot team that does not include Sunday. But if you really must, a HP percentage body is fine before you get a crit damage one. For goals to aim for, it's roughly about 9 to 11,000 HP, usually 220 plus crit damage with a CD body, about 50% crit rate before the battle, and less than 95 speed, so you can get the full crit rate boost from Poet. If you are using Sunday for some reason, you should obviously lower the crit rate requirement while increasing the HP and crit damage. Right now, when it comes to team building, to get the absolute most damage from Castorice and her dragon, you want a ton of healing. The best way to maximize this is to use either Gallagher or Lorcha, combined with teammates who have relatively high frequency of attacks to make use of their automatic healing. This is why RMC, 3B and Midday are very solid teammates, and obviously the healers themselves, Lorcha and Gallagher. Midday is genuinely very solid when combined with Castorice. They both obviously deal less damage without another support, but they have very good synergy with one another, and the extra DPS makes up for the loss of damage when not running an extra support. I did find a Midday team to deal the most damage, but obviously you have to pull both Midday and his light cone to achieve this effect. I do not think it is worth pulling Midday just for this synergy, but if you do have Midday, I definitely think that it is worth trying out. For sustain, I believe Gallagher is going to be better than Lorcha in Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow, while Lorcha is more comfortable to play in Pure Fiction. Of course, there will be the future 180 speed healer as well that I am speculating will be good with Castorice, but that's about all I know right now. In the next tier of teammates, I have Xiaotiu and Pella. Being a Memo Sprite user, traditional harmony supports like Sparkle and Bronya have a hard time buffing both Castorice and her dragon, but Nihility teammates will apply their debuff and hence directly affect both Castorice and her dragon's damage. Not to mention that they need to hit enemies to apply debuffs as well, which works very nicely with Gallagher or Lorcha. Blade is kind of a budget Midday, but also works decently as a secondary DPS. Right now he doesn't really do damage, but he is going to be buffed in patch 3.4, so perhaps it could be even better then. Lingsha is another alternative to Lorcha in Pure Fiction, as even though she doesn't have automatic healing, she does have pretty good healing frequency that isn't affected by the game mode, unlike Gallagher. Sunday is not the best choice for Castorice. I found him to be about 25% worse than RMZ. His skill gets 33% uptime while his ultimate only has 16% uptime, and he is unable to activate Gallagher's healing, which is why I think anyone putting Sunday in the same tier as RMC for Castorice is completely clueless. Perhaps if the future healer isn't so dependent on hitting enemies, Sunday could be a better choice, but right now it's not very ideal, but can still somewhat work. Other options include Runmei, Bailu and Lynx, and if you really have no other choice, Sparkle, Bronya, Huohuo could still be serviceable. I'm not super sure if Jade works, I don't think it does, but maybe could be something to consider in Pure Fiction as they share the same typing. And in the final tier, we have the try not to use category because they don't really do anything for Castorice. Castorice is one of the very few units I feel the need to explain a little bit more on how to best play her, because Castorice can gain up to 12% charge for each ally healed. The main idea behind getting crazy damage is actually healing at a very faster rate, which again is why Lorcha and Gallagher are the best healers. What Castorice will then do is summon the dragon and instantly use all 100% of its HP. This is because it is actually faster to re-summon the dragon with healing than have it run at 165 speed. Advancing Castorice's action doesn't really matter right now, it's quite awkward to properly utilize because speed tuning Castorice can get messy. The ideal speed tuner would be Sunday, but for reasons listed previously, he doesn't do his job very well. Hence, the rotation I used consists of Remembrance Trailblazer, 3B and Gallagher, which I believe will be Castorice's best free-to-play team on release, and it seems Hoyoverse seems to think so as well. This setup allows for your entire team to heal extremely quickly due to 3B's follow-up attack and Mem being able to attack on her own turns, not to mention RMC's ultimate. For Gallagher, you ideally want to be spamming a skill. If you are unable to, try skill, ultimate, basic skill. This would be slightly short of your second ultimate, but if you take extra damage from enemies, which should happen fairly often in this duration, Gallagher can reuse his ultimate again. I recommend a 161 speed build with Sprightly. This way Gallagher can use his ultimate twice in the first cycle. If you are able to achieve 161 with 4P Caesars, that's even better, as you can give Castorice or the dragon even more crit damage when using his skill. For Remembrance Trailblazer, using their skill is very strong because healing Mem also counts as charges for Castorice's ultimate. This also means more frequent Mem buffs, which is obviously very strong. I recommend a 172 speed build with Sprightly. This 172 need not be Eagle, and it can be 2 sets of 6% speed. Combined with the new Remembrance Light Cone from Herta's store, you can get up to 24% speed, which helps immensely with achieving 172 speed, as you only require about 20 speed subsets in total, or 4 speed per relic. Going lower than this is fine, but I recommend at least keeping Sprightly, as it can help in Realm of Chaos or Apocalyptic Shadow. Finally, for 3B, you need not run a fast 3B build. You can keep a low speed poet build, but if you are looking to zero cycle, you most likely need to run a slightly faster build. 3B's build heavily depends on the team you use or the enemies that you are facing, and hence I don't have an exact recommended build. Other variations will be replacing RMC with Mayday or Blade. This is much easier to play since you don't have to worry about Mem's advance or whatever. Simply use your skills when you need to and you should be fine. Xiaoqiu Pella or Rame would obviously take over 3B's slot if you don't have her, as the team-wide buffer or debuffer. The most important thing for Castorice is to constantly heal at a high frequency, so using Lorcha's ultimate only after the field has expired, or keeping Gallagher's ultimate for the second phase is very important so you can maximize the uptime of the healing and hence charge Castorice's ultimate. If you are looking to invest more into Castorice, she has some pretty good Eidolons other than E4. E1 gives Castorice and the dragon an independent multiplier when enemies reach a certain HP. This still gives a pretty decent damage boost even if it reads as a 14% increase. Percentage wise it looks pretty small, but trust me, this is a pretty good damage boost. E2 is very strong, and no, it does not need a buff. You probably just don't understand how it works. It allows the dragon to offset its HP twice when using the breath attack, meaning normally you get 5 hits, but with E2 you are able to get up to 7 hits. Each additional breath can deal up to 200k damage, and Castorice even gets a 100% advance when the dragon is summoned, and her next enhanced skill will give her 30% new blood points. This is incredibly strong because Castorice gets many more enhanced skill users now, and Castorice can even charge her ultimate faster. This results in a 77% boost even despite E0's high performing base and slightly suboptimal rotation. For reference, her E2 performs at a similar level as other previous E6s, at a disgusting 47,000 DPAV. If this was buffed any further, I don't know what we will do. E4 increases the incoming healing for all allies when Castorice is on the field. This slightly increases your damage in a very long run, which is why it's not reflected here. The issue is that charges coming from healing are capped out at 12% for each heal, and we are already constantly capping out even at E0. Finally, we have the classic E6 rest pen boost, and her dragon's exploding bounce attack gets 3 more bounces for a total of 9. This pushes Castorice to 60,000 DPV and is a 120% boost over E0. This is currently the highest ceiling in the game, not accounting for other vertical investment in the team. Hence, for Castorice investment, I recommend E0 S0 with Sweat Now Cry Less, E2 or all the way to E6 as pit stops. E4 is not even remotely close to being worth 2 whole copies of a character, and Sweat Now Cry Less is a very competitive icon, but does however require you to buy the Battle Pass. Hence, when it comes to E1 versus S1, it is usually going to be E1 if you are able to get the Battle Pass icon, otherwise it would be S1. For future improvements to Castorice team, it's either a 5-star version of RMC, and most likely the new 180 plus speed healer that seems to be coming soon. Hopefully with this guide, your Castorice will be doing some crazy damage, but don't forget to like and better yet subscribe to the channel for more quality content and less stupid drama farming about quitting the game. So thanks for watching and see you.